Welcome to another exercise on how to simplify expressions with exponents and roots. Here we have as an exercise, simplify the following expressions. First, 2 times third root from exponential function of 9 times x to the power of 6. And then this one, so the quotient of fourth root of x minus root of x divided by 16th root of x times, in parentheses, 8th root of x plus 4th root of x. Well, let's take a first look at part A. Here we have this expression. And well, we cannot do anything about the 2 in front of this, but we can slightly reinterpret this third root of. Whenever I have a root, I can also rewrite it as an exponent. So if the radicand, the value up here, is 3, I can write it as to the power of 1/3. So instead of using this expression, I can write it in this way. This has one big advantage, because the exponential function is nothing else than e to the power of. So here this actually means something like e to the power of 9 times x to the power of 6. So I have e to the power of this to the power of 1/3. And there I have a rule for this, that I could interpret this similarly to this times what is ever here in this power. So the rule is, if I have x to the power of a in parentheses to the power of b, I could also write it as x to the power of a times b. So I can pull this 1/3 into the exponential function. And well, if I pull the 1/3 into the exponential function, this one and the 9 will interact, and I can shorten it to 3. So this shortens to 2 exponential function 3 times x to the power of 6. And well, what else could I do? Well, I could pull the 3 out, or the x to the power of 6 out, but it will not really simplify the matter in any sensible way. So this is the shortest way to make this expression at least a little bit simpler. Well, this concludes the first part, A. So we can switch to part B, which will be a little bit larger. And in particular, we're going to start with taking a look at the nominator, the part up here. And even though this might not initially look like it, we can interpret this as the result of the third binomial form. Third binomial form, this was a squared minus b squared, could be written as, in parentheses, a plus b times, in parentheses, a minus b. That's what I'm going to do here. So I have to take the square root of this plus the square root of this. Well, square root of this, again, I can write this as x to the power of 1/4. If I take the square root, so I have the square root of this, which is to the power of 1/2. So this is x to the power of 1/4 to the power of 1/2. Then I use the same rule as on the slide before. This means I have x to the power of 1/4 times 1/2. So this will make x to the power of 1/8, which is just the 8th root of x. Here the same thing, this is x to the power of 1/2, again to the power of 1/2. I pull the second exponent into the first, giving me then x to the power of 1/4, which is the 4th root of x. As I said, I do this with plus and minus, following the rule of the third binomial form. So this is actually the same as this one here. And I did this for the simple reason, because then I have the same expression here as I have down here. And those two can cancel each other out. simplifying my expression to the following term. To continue, well, I have the 16th root of x down here. I could write those also as 16th root of something. Then I could actually apply both of these parts and simplify even further. Well, 8th root of x, x to the power of 1/8, is the same as x to the power of 2/16. Well, 2/16, this is x squared, 16th root thereof. X to the power of 1/4 is the same as x to the power of 4/16, which is the same as x to the power of 4/16 root. So it looks like this. Then I could just split this fraction up into two parts, which would look like this. Those two have more or less the same exponent or the same root, so I can do the same thing here. I put them both under the same root sign, looking like this. And then I can see that those two cancel out, so x squared divided by x gives just x. X to the power of 3 divided by x gives x squared. So it simplifies to this result. And well, that's more or less everything I could do in this context. The only thing would then only be to factor out 16th root of x to have 1x. Well, 1x, and here if I factor out 1 or 1/16 root of x, I will be left with 16th root of x squared. 16th root of x squared is the same as x to the power of 2/16, which can shorten to x to the power of 1/8, which is again the 8th root of x. Well, this or that expression is then the final one I could do here, so the simplest way to rewrite this initial expression. Well, that concludes the second part and thus the whole exercise. So I say goodbye and see you next time.